Hello, I'm Dawn Payne, and this is Empowerment TV and the Empowerment Podcast. I have a guest on today. Her name is Denise McDermott, and she is the owner of Elements Health, which is a physical therapy, chiropractic clinic. They have massage therapy and a bunch of other allied health as well. It's been wonderful for me because I've watched Denise grow and learn and become the business owner that she is today. So I was super curious to hear a little bit more about her experience of building and growing a business and transitioning and taking the leap of faith. So we talk about some of the challenges of starting a business. We talk about how to pivot and change and adapt when things come up, and also about the evolution of a business and as a person as we step into new identities and new roles and new realms of our life. So enjoy. The meat of it is in the middle to the end, so stick around for that. That's where some of the biggest insights are, and I hope you enjoy. Well, hello, Denise. Thanks for joining me. I'm excited to have you on Empowerment TV and the Empowerment Podcast.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
My first podcast recording.
Yay! I know. Let's go, right? We've come a long way, both of us. So I'm really interested and curious to actually hear what you have to say, because we haven't talked about any of this before. So I think it's going to be interesting for me, and hopefully I learn something new. I'm sure I will. So by trade, you're a physiotherapist, and you're an incredible therapist. You've treated me. You still treat me sometimes when I, mess myself up and get in trouble. So give me a little background on your physio journey, and then I want to jump in a little bit more about what compelled you to start a business and how you went down that path. So if you can give me a little background.
Yeah, I can. I've been a physiotherapist for 30 years. It's been 30 years this year.
Wow.
Which is crazy to me. Like, to say that is crazy. That's a whole lifetime. And really started out, I went to the University of Alberta, which is a whole journey in itself, because I was a farm girl and coming to the city. And so that was a journey. Then started my profession, not at all ever thinking I wanted to work in private practice or be the therapist I am today. That was not my vision. That sort of happened to me. So I ended up moving back home to my small town, which then led me to become working in private practice, and my own journey with pain and problems with my spine led me into the path that I just became a manual therapist and started working in private practice. So I sort of was, as I was preparing, I was thinking, I sort of have these cycles, and it's like about every 10 years I've been like, I'm kind of bored. I need a refresh. And so in that kind of 10-year span, I took my manual therapy designation. Then I studied IMS, which really led me into taking the leap fully into private practice. I was working for the health authority before that. And then we moved, which is when I met you, Dawn, and started working for you. And I think that, again, was just a bigger leap, having a mentor who did IMS, because in my other workplace I didn't. So that propelled my career in that direction even more. And then I would say, again, in that 10-year span and a lot of other things led me to open my own business. And now we're 6 years into owning my own practice, 2 of them.
Love it. Yeah, it's been fun for me to watch your journey from really the past 15 years.
Yeah.
And joining the team was incredible. And you are a fabulous therapist, and from what I've seen, also business owner. And I love how you stepped into it. I know that was a leap of faith for sure for you. And I'm super happy for you and so glad that you did it. And seeing you thrive has been, I don't know, an honor for me to watch and to see. So, and I know, owning a business has its bumps. There's a lot of rewards, but there's also some bumps. So, what has been the biggest challenge in stepping into the world of being a business owner and navigating that?
I think there's a lot of challenges in owning your own business, especially for myself moving into that later. I'd worked for other people for 25 years before which was helpful because you can learn from those experiences as well, which I really did. I think those experiences shaped who I wanted to be. I knew who I didn't want to be. And then you have the people like yourself, Don, who are mentors, who are people that you learned from the positive ways to run a business and manage people. And then you had the other side I had the other side of that, which I do think are important as well. You look back at certain situations where you think, my dog's barking. You look back at certain situations where you think, why did you have to go through that journey? And it's important too. Sometimes we learn more from those bad experiences in those. I'm throwing my slipper at her.
I had an interview where my dog just went bananas when the mail person came.
Okay, we have to edit this part out. I got to go deal with her because she won't be quiet if I don't. She's going to be a brat. You'll have to practice your editing skills while I give her a treat. So I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was the learning curve. I'm the type of person who I like to be proficient in everything that I do. And so there was I had this belief that I had to know every aspect of my business and felt like I needed to know it immediately. I do have a business partner, so I really didn't have to know every aspect of how to run the business immediately, but you have this feeling that you do. And so being able to break that down and learn a little at a time and learn that I had something to offer, even though I didn't know some of those aspects that she knew. And so finding that balance between the two of us in a partnership. So there's owning a business and there's a partnership. Those are two different things. I think having a partner is amazing, but you have to have the right partner. So I think that's one of the challenges is finding the right partner, working through your the bumps together, because there are going to be ups and downs in a business, and you have to be able to communicate. You have to be able to understand each other, and you do have to have similar values. You don't have to have the exact same values or personality. You actually don't want the same personality. I don't think you want a mixture, and you each have to bring other, different things to the business. That's going to create a successful business, I think. She was a business owner already, so she brought that, but I brought a different perspective of being the practitioner, being the contractor, being the employee. I brought 25 years of that she didn't have, because she owned her own business fairly quickly into her career. So I think we became a really good match. I think that's key to a successful partnership. And then communication. We agreed upon our mission, and we come back to that mission often. So having a clear vision of what you want, that can change. Our vision has evolved. Our vision has changed, but we always come back to that mission statement that we created at the beginning, and we come back to our values. What do we value? And And I think you have to have fairly similar values with your business partner. And then I think we, you know, there's been so many challenges. There isn't just one. We started our business, and the first year in, we were hit with a global pandemic. So if you'd have told me in my second year I'd be laying off staff and closing the doors, yeah, I'd have told you, no, you know, we're on a high of this great first year and then a global pandemic. So, you know, I was thankful for so many things in that time. We're both very frugal. So we had a solid business that we could fall back on, and we didn't have to close the doors because of that. So again, coming back to our values, which were be within our means, work hard. You know, small businesses, you don't just step in and rake in the money, especially in health. Mm-hmm. You know, so that first year, you know, we cleaned the toilets and we shoveled the walks. And so when that second year came and the pandemic hit, we were able to ride that wave. And so that was important. And then in those moments, it really tested our strengths. And we had to go to our strengths with each other. She's very good at reading policy. And so when those policy statements came out, right, and I'm, you know, we both are good at all things. Not all things, that's not the word, but we could do it. If I had to, I could do it. But that's her strength. So she would go to that, and I would be managing on the ground, the people, the emotions, that kind of thing, because those are my strengths. And so we really went to our strengths in those, and then we come back together. Okay, what do you need? And so there's ebbs and flows in that too. There's sometimes in a business where you're like, other things happen in life and you're tapped out, and you have to tag. It's like, tag, you're it. I can't take this on. And so I think we're really good at that. So I think what I'm describing is communication. We have a system of communication. We have a very open communication. And then we've learned that. So we've learned to really work that. Know each other's triggers too. When you come into a business and a partnership together, you have the history. Sorry, my dog is getting crazy. You bring that history of those past experiences. And so sometimes when you're working through things will trigger. And so you have to be able to recognize those triggers. Is that an issue with me, or is it an issue with her, or is it an issue with staff? Where's that coming from? And so we've been able to really work through those things as well. I feel that way because of what happened to me before. Because we both came from situations that led us to open a business together that weren't always good. Mm-hmm. And so working through those and being able to communicate with each other openly and honestly. And, you know, sometimes it had to be a 24-hour rule, right? I can't talk about this right now, but in 24 hours, we'll come back. And revisit it and step back, right? And recognizing each other's, the way each other work, and sometimes being like, I need a minute. So being able to speak for myself. My business partner is very, she's a doer. She's like, right now, she's go, go, go. And so sometimes I had to say, hold up. I need a minute to think that through. And so being able to do that, and she's respecting that, and then we come back. Or sometimes she need to prompt me more, like, no, we need to get this done, right? Where I'm a thinker, I'm more cautious. And then she has to spur me along, like encourage me to take those leaps sometimes. And so those are good. That's good to have those strengths and balances, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You said something earlier that I want to touch on that I think is really key. And that's, you didn't know everything and you still started. And from my own experience, absolutely. You learn, you grow, you hone, you change. Nothing's, not everything is perfect, and nor will it ever be. And moving through those challenges, and sometimes it's hard. And we have to face our own stuff as well. And I think that was another aspect of what you said, is looking at our own triggers and looking how that relates back to partnership or people you're working with or that type of thing as well. And it's a little bit of an evolution as a human too, not just as a business person, but it's growing and learning as a person and how to relate to people and where we're great and where we can improve and how we can put it all together. Oh, yay! We have a visitor.
Yeah, she's being a real brat.
Okay, we'll keep her.
She's coming in the picture.
I should have kept my dog.
Well, if I locked her in a room, she'd just bark. So.
Yeah, exactly. I know. They just want to be with us.
Yes. And I think, exactly, Dawn. And we've learned that too. Sometimes too, you get a system in place in a business, a policy and procedure, I'll call it. You have a procedure in place and it works and you're like, yeah, this is great. But then as time evolves, it's okay to change sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And learn that, okay, that policy worked, let's say that policy worked pre-pandemic, that policy doesn't work post-pandemic, or that fit with our business 5 years ago, but things have changed in our culture, in our community, and in our world, and we need to change a little bit, or things have changed with our employees, our practitioners, and we need to change. So sometimes, especially type A people that most of us are, sometimes that's hard to let go of, but learning that we can change policy, we can change procedures, we can streamline, we can work differently. And so that's always good. You have to change and evolve. And so, at first, when you're opening a business, I think it's key to have some key people in place that you trust, and thankfully I have those in my life. And if you don't, I think you need to, ask others that you trust for referrals or whatever, but some key, advisors, so to speak, lawyers, accountants, business banks, that you trust. You have to have those people in your corner that you trust. Thankfully I do. I have great people. And then, mentors like yourself, Dawn, for me, or other people you've worked with who you trust and you can run things by, having those people and not being afraid to ask for help when you need it. That's key as you start. And then as we've grown in our business, we sought some help from a business, like a fractional CFO, to kind of help us look at what are our numbers really, where can we grow and expand? Like now we're ready. And I kind of changed my 10-year cycle to a 5-year, but where can we grow from here? Where can we improve? Where can we change? Where can we streamline? We really wanted to start working, because at first you're in the hustle of it. When you start a business, especially for me as a new business owner, you're in the hustle of learning, sorting out. Plus we both work, we're practicing business owners. And so finding that balance, which when you own a business, balance is bullshit. There isn't balance. You just work, right? And so that's been one of the other biggest challenges, which I think we should talk about, but is balancing your home life too with that, your personal life with owning a business, because it can become all encompassing. And so after that 5 years, we were like, okay, how can we work more on our business, not in it as much? And where can we streamline? What stuff can we give away to others? Because also in a small business, you can't give all the jobs away or you don't make any money, right? You can't just, oh, we'll hire an accountant, we'll hire a manager, we'll hire a bookkeeper, we'll hire a cleaner. You can't do all of that in a small business. And nor do you need to sometimes, right? Some of those jobs aren't big enough in a small business to give away. You can still do them, but maybe you streamline them. Maybe there's ways you can cut corners, save money. So we did work with a fractional CFO on some of that, and just we're always trying to tweak and grow how we manage our team, how we support our team, and how we grow our business. So I think the real key is that you never really let the grass, grow underneath you, just always moving and changing. So that's the fun part of it too, really.
Yeah, the adaptability is so important, and being able to be okay with things changing, because they do, and they're constantly evolving no matter how you cut it. And it's about evolving with it, and then being part of the driver of the evolution in the direction you want. And, certainly starting a small business is a lot of effort. And I think sometimes people go into business, and this is just my belief, but the reason a lot of businesses fail, there's a lot of reasons they could, but sometimes it's the effort that people aren't aware of that they need to put in at the beginning, especially if you don't have a big venture capital or you don't have a lot of funds to start with. And you got to start somewhere. And as you said, like, as you build, you streamline, you change things. Some things you keep on, some things you source out, and it depends on where you are in your growth. Another 5 years, maybe you hire more people, maybe you don't, right? And it just depends on the company, on the values, on the partnership, on what you want for your company. Not everybody wants to have 10 or 15 clinics or whatever the case may be. And it's fine to want either, but knowing what you want and what's important to you is really a key factor in being able to make those decisions. So I love that thought process.
And the other part of being, I loved the word you used. I think it was the driver of the evolution.
Yeah.
And that is a job as an owner. And that can be a tricky job when you have other people working for you, because not everyone loves change. And so that's become the other biggest learning curve and challenge, has been managing people and culture, more of developing the culture you want. And one of our biggest challenges has been we opened a second location and neither of us worked there. And growing a culture there that was challenging. We tried many different things, but when you're not present, culture is often demonstrated. It's not, you can't necessarily teach culture by just telling them, we want you to act this way and not this way. Demonstrated. And when you're not there on a daily basis, right? And it's key. Cultures, the people you have in place, they might be great at their job, but they're not the right fit necessarily for your business. And so sometimes you have to make those hard decisions, and sometimes you have to have hard conversations with people. So that's definitely been a learning curve for me. But I also love that side of it. And I do think that's one of my strengths. So that's been a challenge, but we've worked through that. It's always culture, something you're always working on, but managing people, but then, really understanding how you can approach different people, and sometimes having that frank conversation with staff members, like, I've seen this work well for you, or asking straight up, how do you like to hear about change? How would you like us to approach you? Some people want face to face, some people don't. How often, and just really setting that up for everyone, so that we're supporting the team and meeting them where they're at as well. So that's always a learning and growing, working with people. Well, we know that as physiotherapists too. It's always a challenge, working with individuals, and that sort of transposes into working with people that we know. Sorry, I don't know why she does this. She's such a brat.
She wants her attention.
Yeah, and then she wanted down, and I put her down. So let me see if I can deal with her. If I sit on the couch with her, maybe she'll be fine. You're gonna have to practice your editing.
I love it.
You have to practice your editing. Oh, now I forgot my cheat sheet. Hang on. Okay. Rich is gonna hear about this when we're done. No, I was gonna go to my office, but then I didn't want to be distracted, so I didn't.
So one of the things you mentioned was hiring the right people. And I can certainly say I've made that mistake in the past, and I'm getting better at it, and just recognizing where it's the values and the type of person who fits and then they can be taught the skills. And I don't mean in the professional group, right? Obviously the professional group has to have the skills to treat the patients, but more in the support team, having people who are, in our world, who can relate to others and who can be part of the culture and part of creating it. And there's certainly times where that one person can then really change the culture, and it can be very challenging. And this from experience, even working at the clinic I owned. And it's tricky because it's not always what it seems at the beginning. Mm. So and there are also sometimes flags that we have to trust our gut. And I've more and more trusted that gut of that person to hire them or not. Go ahead. You had something to comment on.
And I think you're right. And sometimes you don't get it right. You think, it's this person or that person. And you sometimes the squeaky wheel, I'm going to call it, the person who you think, because they're the noisier or whatever, but it's not necessarily that person that's causing the difficulty, and there can be subtle things. And so it can be a really tricky thing, sort of managing that, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think trusting your gut is so true.
Yeah.
The first time I interviewed people, I said, poured through Indeed and the resumes, which are overwhelming when you're, and just set up the interviews. And I left an hour because that's what I would leave for a practitioner. Yeah, I didn't need an hour. Then people no-showed. I'm like, who no-shows on an interview? Like, what?
Right?
And I was like floored. And then my business partners, the next time we were interviewing, she's like, we're going to do a group interview. And I was like, what? Yep. I told them, show up at 7:00. And I was like, I was so overwhelmed. I was like, what? She's like, yep, I'm going to go in this room. You're going to go in that room. We're going to interview. And I was like, I was freaking out. And it was the best interview ever. Because, well, first of all, we didn't have room for everyone to sit. So they had to stand, which they have to stand to work at our clinic anyway, because we have a stand-up workstation. And so I'm like, well, this is perfect. So I told them that's why we're doing the interview this way. Wasn't really. It's because we didn't have room.
Just rolling with it.
Rolling with it. And then, you sort of saw how people interacted with other people because they were being initially interviewed in front of a group. They had to answer questions in this group, which they have to interact with people all day long. So it was really great. And then, it was the best way to do an interview because, we put in the response, this is the starting wage. These are the hours. If you're interested, show up at this time. So if they can't read and follow directions, they didn't show up. So you're up, right? So it was brilliant and it was a great way. And then, really learned. And then we would, after we narrowed it down, then we'd cross and interview each other's candidates. And so I think we narrowed it down to 4. And then we switched. I interviewed her 2. She interviewed my 2 and we decided. But it was great. It was such a time saving on our part. And you just saw them in a different light. And so I was completely out of my comfort zone. But that learning curve of hiring for those positions. And a lot of it was on gut feelings. And did we have some people that didn't fit in those? Yep. But one who was amazing, she just supported us recently when we were in a pinch. She doesn't work for us anymore, but she came back and supported us when we were in a bind. She walked in the door and I said, that's our girl. And she was, right? And of course we interviewed her, but you just had this feeling and it was like, And so really learned, especially again, coming back to my personality type, which is like type A, can they do this? Can they do that? But some of it, you just have to trust your instincts after 30 years of working with people that person's going to be good. And some, like you say, some things you can teach. You can mentor as well on culture and behaviors. You can, but some comes back to their core and you can't change some of that. But I think if you build a culture where some of those things just are not tolerated, that starts to grow too. And you can change. You can change what that looks like. It's not easy and you have to be face forward about it. But you can change some of it for sure. But,
the technical skills can be taught again in the support group as long as they're willing to learn. So that value, are they willing? And if they are, then that skill can be taught. So I think that's part of it as well, is just learning that nuance between it, trusting your gut, and then backing it up with the facts, then helps to I guess, confirm your gut feeling is the way I'm going to say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people come and go to a certain degree. People have lives, and it's understanding that too, that it's not personal and people have choices and making
that's been a challenge, as not necessarily a challenge, but you go through a bump, we'll call it, or an ebb and flow as people have left. And that was a time recently in our business where we had to, our mental health team moved on to start their own business, which we knew that was going to be, was their dream, this person's dream. And so we knew that was highly possible. But when it happens, you get a little bit punch in the gut. Oh, right. And then I think we really came back to that mission statement. I know I've talked about this a lot, but we came back to that mission statement. And when you sort of run those experiences through the lens of what was our mission, what are our values, and then you come back to, oh, right, we wanted to create a safe place for people to work, where they could grow their business in the community they live in. And that's what we did. And we mentored them, and now they're ready to fly. Mm-hmm. And so instead of being like, oh, this is a hit to us, it's actually a celebration for us, right? We did what we set out to do, and we made them, we didn't make them. We assisted them to become super successful, and now they're flying. And now we get to start again with another group of people. And so it's changing that perspective and running it through that lens again, of why did we set out to do this? And so that's been good. And then, we have had to, in the 6 years, there were some people that didn't fit, and we had to part ways, and trying to do that with the least amount of hard feelings, or, being able to set them up and say, you're great. You're a great, whatever, practitioner. I'll just use that word. You're a great practitioner, but just you're not flourishing in our setting. And we think you do better elsewhere, because we want you to be successful. And so, not only for our success, but for their success more so. And so those are difficult conversations, and there's going to be hard feelings, but to try and navigate those as gently and professionally as possible. We've had more successful people, and more people stay with us than we've had to let go, which is always great. Yes. But you're going to have those in business, right? It's never just going to be sunshine and rainbows and roses all the time. And some people move on for other reasons that we're happy for them too. So but that's also what makes it exciting. And then you bring in the next, and then there's more opportunity, right? And so that's been the fun side of it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes bringing in the new energy and a new perspective can be really healthy. Although in the moment when something changes, it can feel like, oh, okay, here we go, right?
Yeah.
And that can be super helpful. And again, recently I've had a similar thing where I brought someone new in. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, okay, new ideas, new ways, new approach, awesome. And can change the dynamic in a very positive way. Not that the other person wasn't fabulous, it's just different. Yeah. And that's always interesting to watch and grow and learn with, and see where things go with that.
And I think it is healthy. It's change is good, because if we stay the same, we stay the same. And that's exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, wow, we want to grow, we need to change, right? And we need to grow. And so it's fun to do that. And it takes work. That's the other part of it. You're like, oh, settle in. But I think in business, we have those moments of growth and then stabilization or coasting. We can't always be on an uphill climb. You have to have moments of leveling off. And sometimes you might have leveling down, like a global pandemic. But that's part of business. It's rarely do you step into a business and you go straight up. Like,
no, it's not a straight line.
No.
And,
we're not Amazon. So, right. So, and even there, I'm sure he's had these. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So that's been an interesting, it's been an interesting learning curve. And then, for me, it's been a really big learning curve on looking at my limiting beliefs about work and how I work, and letting go of some of, my money story that, in order to make more money, you have to work harder. That's mine. And, that limiting belief that I have to work the same way. When you've done something for 30 years and you've been, that's what I know, I can do my job as a physiotherapist, that comes like waking up and breathing for me now at this point. But shifting to the other, that I can still earn a living if I can let go of some of that, and I can run a business and earn a living.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just open a business so that I could work in it. So that's been a shift for me, an important shift for me, that I can do less and still run my business and work differently. Mm-hmm. But you also get pushback from other people. Well, why do you keep working? Why are you stopping working? Why are you working less? Why are you treating humans less? Right. And that's been a challenge. That's the challenge I'm in right now, because I'm ready to change how I worked a little. I'm trying to work less. As far as when I say work less, treat less people. And you get pushback. You get pushback from patients. You get pushback from, family, some of those key people.
Absolutely.
But that's not their story, right? So that's where I'm like, well, I can still earn a living. I'm just going to do it differently.
For sure.
So that's my challenge right now. That's been a challenge of myself, because that's your belief, right? When you believe, well, how do you make more money? You just work harder. Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case. But that's how I was raised, right?
Yes.
Work harder.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we're both farm girls.
You grew up on a farm too.
You work hard, right? Like you're always working.
Yeah. And you work until you're 70. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or
longer.
So, the fact that I'm trying to change that, and it's not that I don't work. The myth that when you own your own business, you work less is a myth.
Yes.
Big myth. But you can work differently, and you can have a bit of flexibility. And I feel that this 10-year cycle, now I'm in my 30 year, this is my third 10-year cycle, and I am ready for change. Mm-hmm. So looking at that, but then, and you have to have those people supporting you who want to hook onto their wagon onto your horse, because the ones that don't, you have to either gently let go of, or in this process, right? And you learn the people who are supporting your dream or who are scared of your dream.
Yes.
Right? You have those people who they say things that they sound like they mean well, like, oh, I'm worried about you. You're working so hard. I never see you since you opened this business. That sounds like they're concerned about you, but really what they're saying is, you don't have time for me anymore. Mm-hmm. And they're not supporting your dream. It takes time, right? And I have had to let go of some of the things that didn't fit with me being able to run my business. And then I've had to reevaluate and find time for things that did. And you have to try and find that balance. But, the people who support your dream are the like, hey, what can we, how can we help? When can we do what, support who I am? Hey, can we get together for a run? Can we, because they know what supports me to be healthy and be able to keep living my dream. And they know that I don't have all the time. So let's make it work together, or how can we support you? Can I come to you? What does that look like? Right. And can we organize? Oh yeah, it's in 2 months from now, but yeah, let's plan a dinner or let's plan something. And so you start to sift through the people that support your dream and the people who are scared of your dream or scared by your ambition.
Absolutely. And that comes back to the change. As we change, sometimes others aren't comfortable with that because it's a change for them. And it brings up their insecurities as well, of whatever it might be, losing a friend, not having as much time with that person, not fully understanding the dream. Maybe their dreams aren't going the way they want. I mean, there's hundreds of reasons that people might be afraid. And I think you touch on a really good point where it's surrounding yourself with people who do lift you up and do support you and will find ways to make things work, and not in the like, I'm going to bend so far backwards that I'm going to do anything anytime, but in that understanding and in creating that dynamic where you can still maintain a connection and support each other, but it just might look different than it did before.
Yeah.
And that is key for sure. And then choosing who's going to continue to fit in this stage of life. And maybe it comes around full circle in 10 years.
Yeah.
Right now, that's where it's at. And there is a dynamic of change that occurs. Yeah.
Yeah. And change for my own self as well, of what's important. I think it was twofold for me, owning my own business and the global pandemic. I keep talking about that, but it's instrumental in a lot of things. But learning to, when that day came where we had to cancel everything and I got to clear my calendar, it was the most refreshing moment for me. I was like, oh, I don't have any commitments. Yeah. It was like freeing.
Yes.
And that really, I had to sit with that and be like, wow, that's a little bit scary. Why do I feel like that? Because I'm an extrovert. I'm not an introvert. So it's like, whoa, why do I feel so happy to clear my calendar? But then I could put back in my calendar stuff that earned its place there and that I really, truly wanted there. Mm-hmm. And so that was enlightening. And it's been good because, my business does take center stage a lot of the time. And in order to get it to a place where then I can have that flexibility that I want so that I can be there for my family and for those important things that I have put back in my calendar. Mm-hmm. But taking some away and realizing I didn't really miss them, or they weren't really serving me or lifting me up in my new purpose. So that's been and it's a transition, and that's an okay transition to have. Mm-hmm. And like I say, that doesn't mean you're wiping someone out from your life forever, or someone or something. But you just really start to look at what's lifting you up, what's supporting you. Because you also, in order to be successful, you have to be healthy, and you have to have time for the things in your life that support your health as a whole, mm-hmm. Which is your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, of what, bringing, and that can then make you be successsul, mm-hmm. whether it's strictly as a physiotherapist or as a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about this a lot in physiotherapy, that you have to physically be well and mentally well enough to serve your clients as well, your population, and show up to do your job. And that's the same to run a business. You have to have that energy, and right. And that's, again, where it's great to have a business partner too, because there's times in life where you don't have that, and then you can pass the baton for a few days or weeks to the other person. Yes. And that's, again, having that right person who's never coming back and saying, well, I did this and you didn't. And right. So
yes,
being able to support one another as we go through life, because life happens, right?
It does.
Those challenges happen. And so that, right, I've had some of those in the last few years that have challenged my ability to get up and go to work, but mm-hmm. you have to.
Yes. And it's still, even on those hard days, if you have the purpose and your why, then you can still, take that step forward, even if it's challenging. But I really like if you're going to have a partnership or a business partner, a partnership is key. And it's like in any relationship we were just talking about, it ebbs and flows a bit sometimes. And this kind of comes back to that balance myth, which I agree with. is sometimes, and I'll just use this example, you're giving more and sometimes you're sitting back a little bit more for whatever reason, whether it's to take care of yourself or whether that other person has a skill that they can use more efficiently. You were talking about policy earlier, and yours, you took on more the people side. But it again, it's not perfect. And what I have found is, like, that first 5 years you mentioned, it was go time. And then once I had it up and running, then I had some time for flex. Now that's is an extreme version, but there's also times in life where, a week or two or a month or whatever it is, something's changing and all hands on deck. And then the system's up and running and then you sit back. And so it's that ebb and flow. It's not perfect balance all the time and every day from my life anyway. But still making sure that each component is taken care of, right? Physical, emotional, spiritual health, and the business and a family, and whatever else is important in each person's life. So just kind of jumping in on that thought process.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
And I think knowing that that's okay. Sometimes we feel like we're letting our business down or our partner down when we're struggling. And actually that's something I think I can talk about, because both her and I would call us workaholics. And so sometimes if we feel like we're not holding up our end, say we're struggling with whatever, we're busy and we're not holding up our end, then we would do like 10 times more things. Because we felt like we were dropping the ball, then we would add like 10 more things on. And we started to recognize in one another that that's what we were doing. And we'd be like, hold up. Like, I got you, right? Like, and being able to ask for help, right? And still sometimes, right? Like, we've sort of acknowledged and we've started to put in, full stops. Like September, my business partner still has children in school. So September is a really crazy time. So, she's put some days off in September, and all it says in her calendar is, you'll thank me later. Like,
I love it.
Self will thank me. And so, she's like, why did I take that day off? Oh, right. My future self's going to thank me for that day off. Yeah. And, one of the jobs she does, I said, hey, can I do that for you this mid-month? Can I do mid-month for you? Oh, no, I got it. And then pretty soon she's like, yeah, no, actually, can you do that?
Yeah.
Right. And because we never want to let the other person down. Sometimes we have a hard time asking for help. And so that's a learning curve too, knowing when we need help and asking for it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes knowing when the other person needs help and telling them you need help and being able to accept that.
Yes. Yeah.
Accept that help. Is always a challenge for people, because most entrepreneurs are hustlers, right? We didn't get here because we don't hustle. And so sometimes it's harder for us to not hustle than to find that. So sometimes it's harder for us to take that break and slow down when we need it. And so to have that other person recognize and acknowledge that in a partnership is helpful as well. Because, the other part of when we were navigating that global pandemic is Jocelyn broke her leg 3 days before. So she had surgery. She got in like right as the last before they closed the ORs. And so she was at home on the couch, which was actually brilliant, because she was writing policy, reading policy every day. She'd listen to the update at 3:30. And because we were going through those changes at that time of, you can only see acute people. Oh, you can urgent. Oh, emergent, right? We were going through that. Every day was a new policy. Oh, now you have to screen people. Now you have to wear masks. Now you have to clean. Everything was changing. And and I was trying to manage the people on the ground. So it worked brilliantly, actually, because she could do that. I could do that, and she didn't feel completely helpless. Like, here I am, I can't come in. I'm post-op on Percocet. Right? So she was rescheduling. She was writing those things. And so it's just shifting.
Yes.
Sometimes in a business, you have to shift and you have to, on the fly, figure out together, I'll take this, you take that, dump and run. So, yeah. So there's been lots of challenges. It's been amazing. I wouldn't change it for the world. Sometimes you think, why didn't I do it sooner? But honestly, all of the things I did, it was timing. It was preparedness, the things I learned from the other places I worked. My kids are grown. I was in a place where the things lined up. Found the right business partner. The timing was right. And the final experience I had was one of, I'm not going to get into that too much, but it wasn't a great situation, and it was the final straw of not going to put my professional integrity on the line, and my clients, in protecting my clients and their personal health information. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this on my own. So, you put a lot of your personal effort into growing someone else's business. And I was like, never again. Yeah. To have, to be concerned about my reputation and professional integrity. So it was time. So sometimes you just need that kick in the,
yes,
out the door.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes those things that don't work out are exactly what you need to get clear on what you do want.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you were already thinking about, you're already transitioning into your own at that time. But I think that's a really good lesson and something to share, is that, sometimes as, you take that leap to make a change and you start in that direction, it doesn't always work out the first time, or it doesn't always quite work out in the way you think, but it gives you, if you're willing, it can be information for what you do want, right? And you'd alluded to this earlier, but I want to just touch on it. And then I want to talk about, what's been fabulous for you in owning your business. As you know, I've had the fortune to work in other countries and work across Western Canada and work in a bunch of different clinics. And in that, I learned a lot of what I didn't like and what I do like. And then what was interesting is then implementing it wasn't always what I thought it would be. Right? And then partnerships kind of got tricky too sometimes, where, my vision didn't quite match. And so it's just understanding that it doesn't always work exactly as you planned. Even as you might have a vision, and those experiences get you clarity on what you do want. And so I just wanted to touch on that, because I think I'm glad you said it. I didn't want to say anything, but I think that is a really, really valuable lesson and reminder that sometimes those efforts feel futile.
I am back.
Technical problems.
Technical difficulties.
Yes.
I had lots of battery, but I did not. Anyways, we're talking about very important things.
We were.
So I was just talking about how, had opportunity for business along the way, and, whether it was location, timing, the wrong people. Sometimes it can be money. The investment was too much, or the timing was wrong. And then I had an experience where I was set to buy a business, and the person kind of turned the tables, and then I was really disillusioned. And sort of left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, nope, I'm just going to go put in my time till I retire, work for someone else. I have a great job. I make, I'm good. And then that situation went south. And that's where I was like, no, I've worked too hard to build my reputation and my career, and I'm not going to jeopardize that anymore. And when you start getting to a point of you've worked for 20, 25 years, you start to be the go-to person in that business. You're the mentor, and you're doing all that work, right? And so you think, this was a little bit of a disillusion too. I thought, well, I may as well just do this for myself. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, yes, that's part of it. I am a hustler, so I might as well do that for myself. But then there's a lot more to running a business than just that component. But then it is for yourself. And so you can call some of the shots. You can you can do the work the way you want to do it. And so it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been challenging to do it when my kids were smaller, for sure. But of course it can be done. People do it all the time. But I'm happy that I have a time where I didn't have to worry about that as well. So that was an advantage on my part.
Mm-hmm. So what has been great about owning your own business? You've already said a few things, but if there were a couple key things that has made it worthwhile, you get to call some of the shots, you get to create the atmosphere and the culture that you want. Those are a couple things I heard, but is there any key things that have been important to you?
I think it's been great one of the greatest things is watching others grow, being a mentor, a role model, and creating that place where people can flourish and grow. I had other people like yourself do that for me. So it's good to give that back to others, and give back to our community. That's also one of our missions, was to work and grow the community we live in. And so to do that where we live and support our small community has been fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Be a part of.
Yeah, there's definitely some satisfaction in watching people grow and whether it's in the professional realm or whether it's grow as people.
Mm-hmm.
That has certainly been something that's been rewarding for me as well. And I said at the beginning that, for me, it's been an honor to watch you through your journey and to be a small part of it earlier on. But then just watching as you've moved through that and made those decisions and, made some tough decisions, but ultimately thriving, and you put in the time and the effort and the commitment and made the decision. And, once you made that decision, it evolved and came to be where it is now. And it's still growing. And that's really cool to watch for me.
I think that's another part that's been rewarding is we've been successful. We are successful. So, we've been able to be successful. We've been able to open a second location, and then always looking for other opportunities now where we can go. And you sort of go, okay, we did that. Now let's make that. Where can we go next?
Mm-hmm.
And we often say that to our contractors and our staff as well. Like, well, what about this? And we're like, show us how it can happen. We can, the sky's the limit. Like if you can dream it, we can try to work to make that happen. And so I think just having that ability to be open-minded and open to new opportunities is nice, and it's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
A refreshing part of it, because we get to call the shots. when you work for someone else, not necessarily do you get to do that. So that's been a real reward of working for myself. A little bit of more freedom to take the time I want at this point in my life for my family, for vacation. That's been nice. Not that I was limited that much before, but it just feels a little freer for that. So that's been good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else you want to add that you think would be important for someone starting a business or in a business or in a transition time in their life or career?
We've touched on it through this, but I think kind of the key things is to sit and get clear of what you want. Sort of those base things. What are my values? What do I want? Where do I want to go? And other things can change and ebb and flow. You might start with one business and then you have 5, and those things can change. But you need that baseline, the baseline of good people in your corner that you trust. The foundation of why do I want this? What do I value? And what's my purpose in creating this? And even purpose can evolve.
Yes.
But if you're clear on it to start with, then things will grow from there. And the biggest thing is, once you have those things in place, take the leap.
Mm-hmm.
It's not I feel like you can have a parachute, like don't just free fall, but you can, take that leap. It takes work, it takes hustle, but it's worth it.
Yes. Yes.
And if and then the other part of it is, if you come across roadblocks, ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help. Reach out to people who, there's lots of good business coaches out there, or mentors, or people. Ask for help when you need it.
Yes.
Is the other important thing.
I agree.
Whether it's from inside your business or, with your staff, practitioners, partners, or if it's outside your business when you need that help.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry for all the chaos.
Yeah. Hey, we adapt and we change and we we go.
This is my reality. It's like, this is my reality.
We demonstrated it perfectly.
Yeah. Pets.
Yeah.
Batteries.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know.
Technical difficulties, and we regroup.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Dawn.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining this episode of Empowerment TV and the Empowerment Podcast. Head on over to dawnpayne.com and sign up for email updates. If you haven't done that already, I'll share with you firsthand what's going on and when new episodes come out. Also, please like this and share it. I'd love to have more people with the opportunity to learn and grow from some of the experts I bring on. And remember, I believe in you. Keep believing in yourself and keep believing in your dreams. You have everything it takes to make them all happen. I'll see you next time.